Welcome, Victory Family. We're glad you have joined us for this podcast today. As you can tell, things are a little bit different. We're in a different room. We've got some different folks here. Jason is actually with us, but we hid him off camera, and I know that breaks your heart, but you'll hear him in just a moment. He'll still be moderating this. As always, we would encourage you to hit the like button and also share this podcast to your own page. That way we can get our message out to even more people, and hopefully we'll be able to encourage some folks who maybe think that there's just no hope. But there is, and we're glad to be able to tell you that. Now, let me introduce our special guest. This is a much prettier group than you're used to seeing, except for the two guys on the end. But we'll try and focus everything on the middle. That's Pastor Jerry Smith down on the other end. He pastored for over 30 years. And then that's his wife Jane next to him. My wife Brenda sitting next to me. And of course, I'm Don Whitecotton, and I have no idea how many years I've been pastoring now. It's well over 30. Now, let me turn it over to Jason. As I said, he's actually here. Just, there was only so much room for the camera to pick up. So, Jason?
So today is going to be our really special Valentine's Day podcast, or pre-Valentine's Day when this actually goes out. I think it's really, really important that the younger married generation, or even the younger generation as couples, take away from your years of experience being married. Because let's face it, to get to where you guys are at today isn't easy in today's world. Marriages oftentimes are thought of as throwaways. You can always get another one. But to be married as long as you guys have takes real commitment, real love, and real dedication. And so I want to thank you guys for being here with me today. It is such an honor to be able to interview you, and it is really important. As I say all the time, this is not only for everybody online, this is also for me too. So I'm going to throw you guys a curveball that wasn't on the list of questions that I have for you.
There's a surprise.
And it's really, I feel, the most important question that is not on this list. How important is the Bible and God in a relationship?
Absolutely.
100%.
100%.
Yes. The ironic part about it is, of course, you can meet in many different locations. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Brenda and I actually met in church. So for us, if it hadn't been for the Bible, remember, Jason, I traveled literally from Indianapolis, Springfield, Missouri. I had never been I'd never seen the Mississippi River at that point in time in my life. The only reason I met my wife at all, some 47 years ago now, since we met, is that God did a work in my heart and then began to prompt me to go to this place that, I didn't know there was such a place as Springfield, Missouri. I certainly didn't know what a Baptist Bible college was. But had it not been for that, I would have never been in the church, and I would have never met my wife.
Pastor Smith, how important do you feel the Bible and God is in a marriage?
100%, as the rest of them stated. I think without the Bible, without church, without godly friends, it's going to be in trouble somewhere down the line, and they're not going to have something they can hang on to. And the Bible is something that we can hang on to. It's sure, it's true, it's right. And so it helps in the time of need. It's there. And so I think it's 100%. It's the most needed thing is church and the Bible. Both go together.
Well, let's face it, anybody can be married when you're having fun and prosperous and everything's good, right? But that's not the way life works. Right. And you better have something that you can center yourself around when times aren't going the way you wish they were going.
Good times and the bad times.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Most people today want the good times.
Yeah.
They don't want to endure the bad times.
No, for better, for worse. Leave the for worse out. Just better.
Well, I'm gonna direct this to the lovely ladies that we have in the room, because let's face it, sometimes us men forget things. So How did you guys meet? Brenda, how did you and Pastor Don meet? I know he said a little bit in church, but what was that process like when you actually saw Pastor Don?
Well, I didn't like him. But
I don't understand why not, but
He had hair then.
yes, he did. He did. He was a dashing young man. But I knew he went to Baptist Bible College, and I told God a long time ago I wasn't going to marry a preacher. So I wasn't really interested. But we got into a singing group, and I played the piano, and when we were traveling, we kind of hit it off then. But yeah, that's how it started. Only it had to be God, because like I said, that's not what I was looking for. But he got me here.
Miss Jane, how about you and Mr. Jerry?
Well, we met at church also, and I was 15, and I was invited over to Fellowship Baptist Church to sing. And so when I got out of the car and he was standing on the steps, he had a leather jacket with the collar turned up, the collar turned up. He had black hair with he looked like Elvis to me. And I immediately thought, boy, I like this guy. So he'd have been 17 at that time. So we met at church. I liked him immediately, but he did not like me. He thought I was a goody two-shoes.
And that's what we love the most about you. So, I'll go ahead and pick on you guys for a little bit more. And Mr. Jerry's already given me guff about asking it like this. But what was dating, what was courtship like back when you two were going steady, as they used to say?
Yeah. Well, we went steady. We had each other's rings, class rings. But it was, for me anyway, with my parents, it was very scheduled. I mean, I had to be home at a certain time. They wanted to know where I was going to go. Most of our dating was at church, like skating parties. I don't know if we bowled or not, but things, youth rallies, things like that. So we would sit together in church, and then he would take me home. But it was all real scheduled. I mean, my mom, if I was past 10, she would give me a whipping. And my sister told me that the other day, that she was behind the door and she laughed about it, that her big sister got a whipping. Yeah. But it was a lot different than now. I mean, you had to be home at a certain time. You had to have manners. I mean, Jerry would, he didn't open the door for me, but and our dating, we would go around Frisch's in Columbus, Indiana for hours. And you put on all these miles on this car.
Really did.
So that's part of the dating. We just drive around. It was just
in ancient times, Jason, we call that cruising.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. So it was a lot of fun. But it was a lot different now, we had morals. Mm-hmm. I think we didn't take each other for granted. I mean, I think we, he respected me.
You enjoyed the time you spent together.
Yeah, we did. We passed notes too. I've got all the love notes at home.
Yes, she does.
Are you telling me Mr. Jerry used to pass you sappy love notes?
Yes, and they're still, and he was very legible.
Not so much anymore, huh?
He would say, "My dearest future wife, Mrs. Smith."
And Jerry, do you feel like you could date today, or do you feel like you had it easier back when you and Miss Jane were dating?
I think it was much easier then than it would be now. I mean, if you went on a date, do you hold her hand or do you not hold her hand? Is that right, or is that just anything? Do you
that was
give
the
her
most
a kiss
forward
goodnight?
part about it.
Do you give her a kiss at the door, or is that something wrong? I don't know right from wrong today, as far as dating goes. Right. So, our daughter had her second date, or was going to have her second date, and the guy got rude and made some remarks that shouldn't be made. She told him, she said, I'd like you to be a friend, but I don't want nothing else.
That's smart.
So I don't know. I just don't think I'd fit in today.
And Jason, the reason we
I'd
questioned your,
I'd have to date some of them women in the nursing home where my mom.
the reason we gave you guff about your question was, look at us. We have no clue what dating's like today.
Yeah.
All we know about dating today is we see them at the restaurant when we go out, although we normally don't go to the same restaurants they go to, and both of them are doing this. And I wonder, how do you get to know somebody like that?
They're texting each other.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. We didn't have that distraction. We actually had to talk.
I didn't even have a telephone. If he called me, I had to go down to where there was a Dairy Queen at the phone booth, and he would call me or I'd call him. So I didn't have a phone.
Well, Pastor Don, can you tell us a little bit about yours and Miss Brenda's courtship?
It'd be a lot more fun if she told it. She had different, very similar things. I mean, there were expectations. Now you have to remember, I wasn't raised in church, and I had only been in church like 6 months at the time, ish, somewhere along in there. So what I was learning as I went, Jerry said he didn't know what to do. I really had no clue what the expectations were. Brenda was the second church attending girl I had ever dated. And here I am, I'm a Bible college student now, and we were only allowed to go out one night a week, college rules, and then we're allowed to go out for, I think, on Sunday for like eat or something like that.
And
So-
you could only go certain places.
Yes, you couldn't leave the city limits of Springfield.
Right.
If you did, you had to have another couple with you. So there are all these different rules and things, plus the fact, I've told people before, in her words, she had rules, curfew, all this sort of thing. And, you know, when you're used to being a kid from the middle of Indianapolis and your curfew was your dad gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning and you might ought to be home by then, that was a bit of a learning curve. So I was a little intimidated because then I met her family and I was really intimidated. So it's a different world. It really was.
So, you guys aren't really all that familiar, but as outside observers watching the dating world, I know, Pastor, Miss Brenda, you have a young family member that lives at home with you, and you kind of get a little glimpse into what dating is like today.
Yes.
On good, bad, or indifferent, do you think today's dating processes lead to unrealistic expectations in marriage?
Yes.
Do you think there's too much information, let's say, given up front?
Oh, yes. The things they talk about now, we would have never, ever, ever talked about in public, you know, but they talk about this kind of stuff. It's just like, normal conversation. And, they're always on the phone talking. We always have required our kids, when they had our girls, if they had a date, the guy had to come to the door and come in, not this beeping on the horn or
Calling you in the
Call-
driveway,
yeah.
saying, I'm here.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we did have a curfew, but now, today it's whatever they want. So I don't think that gives them a real life experience of what life is going to be after they're married.
Now, in the interest of full disclosure, the one thing I've observed too, and to be fair to today's young people, guys like Jerry and me had it a lot easier because my wife's goals did not include career,
Right.
all these other
Right.
extraneous things. She wanted to be a wife. She wanted to be a mother. I knew that up front. The only problem we had was she wanted 7 kids. I didn't. So, but think about it.
But we had
All those,
4, so
yes,
he
so
wanted
she
2.
actually won.
Yeah. Yeah.
You split the difference.
The scales tipped her way a little bit,
That's
but
fine.
that's fine. But that, in all fairness, young people today, I feel I hurt for them in a way because our expectations were simple. It wasn't nearly as complicated. We didn't have to worry about, is she going to post on social media about me? That never happened.
So we talked a little bit about social media. I know Brother Smith and Miss Jane, you're both on Facebook and everything like that. Do you think that access to information about somebody else kind of takes away from the intimacy of getting to know somebody in that dating process?
Yes, because you don't see them face to face. I mean, I think I think you need to look at them and talk about things. But when you're texting or on social media, you don't really see that person, and you might say things on there that might not even be quite true. You know, there's all kinds of people that does that.
It's hard to interpret emotion in a texted word.
Right, it is. You don't, they might say something and you take it all wrong, So I think it hurts somebody dating now. I think they should meet, and I think it should be, structured, but I don't think it's going to happen, See, a lot of kids today, they just don't even think about getting married.
Right.
They just like each other. They'll just, live together and not even get married. So their thinking is a whole lot different than what ours was.
Sure.
What do you think, Brother Smith? Do you think the access to information today is helping or hurting today's youth in the dating world?
Well, I think it's hurting more than it's helping. It's just different. I don't know what words you put with it. It's just different today than, as Jane said a minute ago, I mean, people today don't plan on getting married. They just live together until they get upset with one another, then they go find somebody else. And that's not the way we were brought up.
No. I think the word that's missing today that we just assumed was a part of the process. I don't know why, and of course, Jerry and I both have done a lot of weddings, but this whole till death do us part thing, I mean, if we were being honest, we'd leave that part out of the ceremony totally. Because even church young people that I run across now, that's not in their thinking at all.
It's more of a suggestion in their eyes.
It's a hope so thing, yeah. For us, that was the expectation. That's how many years you guys been married?
57.
We've been married 46. And if you think for a moment it's been all fun and games, no. We literally don't have enough time to tell you all the horror stories. But it's because we went into it assuming I'm making a commitment that I'm going to keep the rest of my life.
We based it on the Lord too.
Sure, absolutely.
Because we've had some very bad things happen to us. Like our daughter Sandy that has passed away. When she was like 13, she ran away from home. She wouldn't obey us or anything, and we had to finally put her in a home at Sand Mountain, and she was down there for a year and a half, and we had to sign away rights to her. That was terrible for a mother.
Yeah.
But she came back better. She got saved down there. But to go ahead and have to do that, I just cried every day. So you don't have easy things in your life.
Yeah.
Not counting no money.
And there's that part, yeah.
And I think different for the two couples here than what a lot of people who are going to watch this face is you both are pastors' wives. And that in itself brings its own set of challenges. It really forces you to kind of rely on your husbands for support sometimes.
Definitely.
A lot of times.
Yes.
Where a lot of couples nowadays don't rely on each other. They rely on friends or the internet or how is it different being a pastor's wife and knowing that you have to rely on your husbands who, up until you went to nursing school, Miss Jane, they really are responsible for your family unit. But they have different pressures than any other man will face in a job market. because as Pastor Don and I have discussed several times, pastors don't get people at their best. If you're coming to a pastor, you've got some kind of problem. How does that, being a pastor's wife, how does that kind of trickle down and affect you guys, and how do you overcome that?
I just go to the Lord because, you know, there's nothing more I can do. You know, I've been hurt a lot. I've been pressed up, you know, to do stuff. I don't know. I just know the Lord's there, and I can talk to him and tell him anything, and we just take it to the Lord because he's the only one that can do a lot of that.
Miss Jane?
Oh, I totally agree. Now, Jerry is my best friend. So I feel like I can go to him
Absolutely.
and I tell him about everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't
But
want to
Sometimes
know.
more than we want to know.
As a
That's
pastor's wife, though, I don't know, Brenda probably can tell me if she has it, but I have like a perception of something. Because if somebody is wrong in the church, like maybe they're planning something against your husband or something, I can tell that. And I'll go tell him, I'll say, I just feel like he's not right, so you might want to watch out for him. And that has happened where a man was wanting to take over the church. And he didn't really know it, but I could tell and told him. And then when he started looking, he could tell. So I think a lot of it is you just have to trust the Lord and read the Bible and have the Word tell you what to do. And just lean on the Lord and lean on your pastor, because he's my pastor too
Right,
at that
right.
time.
Yeah.
You know.
That's the dynamic people don't comprehend. And to my mind makes what they do harder far than what Jerry and I ever have done.
So, Pastor Don, what can the men of today learn from your dating experiences of the past?
Don't get married. No, that's not it. That's not it. In all honesty, I just not joking for a second. I have been known, if I insist on some level of counseling before I do a wedding, and I have tried to talk people out of getting married when it's just obvious to me that this is doomed. And you never want to say that, but you can't sit there long enough and not figure out what can I learn from us. It's not really complicated at all. Commitment. I keep coming back to that word, I know. But you jokingly said it a minute ago. When I met my wife, I was a whole lot skinnier and had a whole lot more hair. People have looked at our wedding pictures, and it's in my house, and they've looked at my church folks have looked at our wedding picture and looked at her sincerely and said, I did not know you've been married before. She didn't plan on that. And here we are. It's a commitment thing. The second one is concern. We are best friends. There's no one, and you've been around the family long enough now. The kids are convinced that if Brenda ever dies, I'm done for. We're that close. That's the concern you have to have. And then and I know this word gets used a lot, but I don't think anybody actually pays attention. You got to communicate. And it's hard. There are things I don't want to tell her. There are things she doesn't want to tell me. But you got to do it. You do those three things, you'll figure it out.
Pastor Smith, what about you? What do you think younger men like me can learn from your experiences in the past?
I think it was the same thing that Pastor Don said, commitment. And there just doesn't seem to be the commitment today. Like I said a little while ago, for better, for worse. And everybody wants to take all the better, but they don't want to take the worse. And the worse sometimes can be pretty bad.
Yes, it can.
And it's really into stories that I don't even want to talk about. There are things that are past and things that Jane's had to put up with in the past.
Are you saying you're difficult to deal with, Pastor Smith?
Some days.
Yes, I'm saying that.
Some days.
He can't say I'm sorry too well.
Yeah.
I haven't always been, we haven't always been the best of friends. We haven't always been close. We are now, and we have been probably for 10 or 15 years. But there were some times that were really terrible. And but she had the stay power.
That commitment got you through.
That commitment to the Lord, not to me, but to the Lord. And because she had that commitment, we made it through the rough times.
So that kind of leads me into my next question. Are relationships always 50-50?
No.
Can we say our relationships ever 50-50?
Right.
That would be that would probably be a better question. Go ahead.
No.
What do you think?
Jason, Jane told me, she said, everything's got to be 50-50. And I said, let me ask you a story.
I was 17.
Let me ask you a question. I said, I want to buy a car and you don't. What do we do? She said, we don't buy it. I said, well, what if you want to buy one and I don't want to buy one? She said, we buy it. I said, you already used up 100% and I haven't had my 50 yet. This thing ain't working.
It doesn't work.
No. The truth of the matter is there are times when I'm done. She's by far more than 50%. You make up for each other. That's part of the commitment concern level that you got to have.
Yeah.
One makes up for the other one. There were times I'd walk in the door after what I did. She's had the kids all day long. She was a stay-at-home mom. And I would be greeted with, see you later, they're yours now.
Right.
And that kind of goes back to our communication. It's vitally important that you communicate that. Miss Brenda, you've had a rough day. You've had my 2 kids all day long. You've had a couple of your other grandkids over all day long.
Yes.
How important is that to communicate to Don that in that moment you need him to make up that slack?
Oh, he already knows now. That's the thing. I used to have a kid in a hand when he was walking in the door, and I'd say, "Here," and I'd walk in the bedroom and close the door. He knew. So right now he knows already now when it's time.
Miss Jane, how important is it for you to communicate to Jerry? You've had a rough day. You were a nurse for a number of years, and that in itself brings on a lot of challenges. There's things that you see as a nurse that us lay people don't get to see. How important is that for you to communicate to Jerry that, hey, I'm not at my 50% today. I'm at 20, and I need you to make up that other 30%.
I've done that recently. I'm sure I did it in the past too. But just a couple days ago, I just had a terrible headache. I just did not feel good, and he's not well either. But I said, Jerry, can you make supper? And he goes, what? I said, I just don't feel well. So he did. He made a pizza.
I was about to ask Jerry, where'd you order pizza from?
No,
I didn't order it. I got it out of the fridge.
But he did. He helped me because I just didn't feel good. I wanted to go lay down. And so, I've told him that I just, I don't do that very much. But, because I don't have children like Brenda does.
Well, the thing of it is, when he's outside doing yard work, I'm outside doing yard work too. If I'm doing the dishes, he'll come help me do the dishes. I mean, I don't feel like we should sit on the couch when somebody else, unless you don't feel good or whatever, but we're a team.
I think there's a lot of expectations when younger people like us look at our parents or our grandparents, and there was a lot of, well, mom does this and dad does this.
Right.
But I think that watching you guys for so long, being that I'm not in the Smith household, I'm in the White Cotton household a lot. Watching you guys, it's never been that way. It's never been what we would like to classify as traditional gender roles. There's always a give and take. Along with communication, the next big thing is help each other out.
Yeah.
That's the concern factor. Absolutely.
You can't be a husband from a couch,
No.
and vice versa. You can't be a wife from a couch.
Right.
So, how does that work in your guys' relationships, where you're outside mowing the lawn, and I pulled in the driveway, and Miss Brenda's out there with a rake raking up leaves.
Yep.
It's important, but it's a different kind of important, other than communication.
What we don't always communicate real well with you and our kids in general, younger people, is it wasn't always that way. And that's okay. We've had to learn these things. I came from a different world than my wife did, literally. I know my mom and dad probably loved each other, but I never one time heard them say it. I never one time saw them act like it. So I had no clue what I was doing, but we learned together. And we got through the early years. They're easy because, let's face it, that's romance. And but after a while, the kids and the pressure, and you learn together. Simple, the honest answer, you just learn. And if I'm helping young people, I'm telling them, hang in there. It will get better.
Brother Smith, was there a learning curve in your relationship, getting used to having your new wife in a home with you?
I think so.
Well put.
What was your biggest obstacle that you had to overcome as a new husband?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know if I got the answer. I think learning patience with one another. When we go back to when we were first married and playing checkers, and I wouldn't let her win. She got mad, threw applesauce all over the house, took our wedding picture, stomped on it, and headed for home. And
I did that.
I just couldn't believe that this person that I married would do something like that. I mean,
Like 3 months.
she looked like she was ready to attack me with a knife, and I had to learn that things didn't always go just my way.
See, that's funny because we were the exact opposite. I was afraid to beat her because I knew I'd hurt her feelings.
Well, I said, you are hurting my feelings. Well, I'm not going to let you cheat.
Yeah, I said that'd be cheating to let you win. So
He did that with our kids too.
So, after 50 plus years, 40 plus years of marriage, how do you keep it fresh? How do you not just go, oh yeah, he's awake again, or oh yeah, she's awake again? How do you keep that love and keep that communication open? How do you keep it going after all these years?
We have a lot of humor.
Right.
I mean, I laugh a lot. I joke a lot.
she does.
And so I cut up quite a bit, and I'll say, isn't that funny? And he'll go,
No.
oh, well, it was funny to me, and I'll be laughing. So really, communication and laughter and humor, and then we just, we would just laugh at each other, and then we'd hug and give a big kiss, But that's how we did a lot of ours, is
We'll
just
have a date
humor.
now and then. We'll go out someplace. to
Yeah, we
eat.
would have date night.
It's one of the things I encourage young people still. When you start having kids, the pressure gets you, have a date night.
Yes. Get away.
So,
Or have a date lunch?
Yes.
Anything,
yeah,
yes.
anything.
Get
yeah.
away.
Yeah, to get away.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think our marriage is fresh. He gave me a compliment, Jason. He said, being married to you is never a dull moment. Didn't
All
you?
right.
That's good.
What's important for you, Miss Brenda, to keep things alive? Keep the love in the front and not on the back burner.
I don't know, just being together. I don't know. We the kids want to go out and do stuff all the time. We just like sitting and listen to music or watch a TV show. it's comfortable. That's what we want, you know, and we have fun too every once in a while.
Yep.
And a date night, yes, we get out, of course, with nobody there except none of our kids there. We can do that anytime we want, but just to go out and be together.
And
With
again,
this-
we've given each other permission to some nights say, you feel like cooking? Nope. You feel like cooking? Nope. Then where are we going?
Yes.
And the expectations are never, well, you're not doing your job.
No, no. That sounds good.
Now, Pastor, when you and Miss Brenda got together, did you have a lot of the same interests?
No. Our interest, the book of Ecclesiastes puts it this way: two are better than one, and then it goes on to say, and a threefold cord is not easily broken. The only thing we had in common was we were in church, we liked music, we had that in common. Other than that, we were literally from two different worlds. I was raised in an unchurched, unsaved home, without glorifying all the stuff. I was from that world. To me, wrong was defined as, did I get caught or not? That was literally how we did things. And she had been in church her entire life. So no, the only thing I knew for sure was I really liked her. And I've preached before. I distinctly remember the looks I got. It was one of the funniest moments of my life. I was preaching on the home one Sunday, and I said, look, folks, I'd love to tell you that I was attracted to my wife because she had a wonderful Christian testimony, and she did. And because you could just tell she loved the Lord and she loved being in the Word, but no, she was hot. Then there's nothing wrong with that. I was attracted to her. I still am. But that's where the commitment comes in. We've learned each other, and we've developed things together that, man, God's been good to us.
Yes, he has.
And that's it, So no, opposites attract. And that's fine. She keeps me in line, and I keep her from being dull.
So, Brother Smith, what is the most important thing for a young couple, a new couple, to put in their marriage or put in their relationship to ensure a long and healthy marriage?
Well, I believe as we started out talking about, I think church, the Bible, and I think having some good godly friends is a big help too. Because if you notice, we sat in the same place every Sunday. I'm hoping that the church down in Florida, I hope they got that space because I'm going to occupy it one of these days. And so I think that doing that, you just have a church group that you can talk to and fellowship with and everything. And it was funny that a lot of the people thought that when Jane and I first came over there to the church that I was real snobbish and everything. And I just tried to prove that I was just down to earth. I like people laughing and cutting up and everything. And people came to me and said, we had you over. You're nothing like what we thought. And I think that's a help to put a bond in the church where you're going. And so if they do some of those things and their activities, they're going out to whatever they do, becomes a Christian thing instead of let's meet at the bar.
Pastor Don, early on, when your daughter and I started dating, you told me there's 3 people in a relationship. Can you tell me who those 3 people are?
You, her, and God.
And why is that important?
Because you need something to rally around. You and her are not always going to get along. No matter when you first get married, you think, well, what's the old saying? A woman marries a man thinking she'll change him, but she won't.
No.
A woman marries a man, or backwards. Yeah, a woman marries a man thinking she'll change him, but he's not going to change. A man marries a woman thinking she'll never change, but she will.
Yes.
Well, what you need is Christ in the middle of your relationship, and those changes aren't nearly as big a deal. Because over the years, we've changed together. And that's the key. The rest of it works around that.
Miss Jane, it is particularly hard over the past year almost for young couples. We thought that we were going to see a downturn in divorce, and it has turned out that the reason we saw a downturn in divorce in 2020 was because the courts were closed. You couldn't get a divorce. There's a lot of people spending a lot of time together. There's a lot of people being isolated together. You've been retired for a few years now. Jerry's been retired for a few years now. How do these young couples who find themselves with an abundant amount of time together, how do they make the best out of that situation? And how do they encourage growth in their relationship when they're used to being at work, or they're used to being out with their friends, and now they don't have that? How do you take that outside world and turn that into an inside relationship?
Well, I think if they have any common interests, like my cousin, his cousin, they're not a young couple, but they are doing jigsaw puzzles together. Well, they might be another game. Maybe there's a game that if they've got children, they could have their kids and all of them around a table and get back to board games, or things like that. If they know the Lord, they could have Bible study at home, with the family. Just try to do something together, so they're not going to feel like that they're isolated, like you said, because this year's been tough. A lot of people's been in, you get sort of cabin fever, So I think, just try to make a family together doing a project. Maybe they play the piano or some instruments they could have. I don't know if they would do it, but I'm just saying that would be something if they had a common interest they could do, or they could have TV night, have different, different game night, and try to get through, having that. They could always call their friends and FaceTime. Now that they've got the Facebook and all that, you can FaceTime people.
Yeah, we couldn't do that.
No, we couldn't do it either. We had to have real FaceTime.
That's right. And I think the other thing is, Jason, and it's just as important, you got to give each other permission. For instance, Brenda will sit down and play board games. I'm not a big fan. And there are certain games they play that I'll be real honest about it, because I'm no good at them. I don't like them. And that's okay. We'll find other things to do.
Yeah.
Miss Brenda, it's always good to have together time, but do you think it's also important to have separate time, alone time, away from each other?
Oh, yes. I think it's very important that us women get together and talk. I mean, we're at church and we do say hi and we can talk a little bit. But I enjoy our time with the ladies, and or just like going out to eat one-on-one and talking to somebody else. That's very important.
It helps.
Sure.
Now, at our house, Jerry will go downstairs into the family room, and I'll stay up and I'll do my things upstairs, and we'll have separate time that way. But I like that. That's fine with me.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I think a lot of young couples think they always have to be in contact with each other. And I think it's very important for you to have your own interests and have your own time separate from each other.
Right.
So what advice would you give young people, Miss Jane, who are coming into a relationship, newly engaged or a newly married couple? What kind of advice would you give them to make sure that that they are as committed in their relationship or can see their relationship grow for a long term?
Well, I think that if they're engaged, I think they shouldn't have a rush to get married because they need to learn each other. They need to know about somebody, have the time. And if they're newly married, they still need to learn. It took Jerry and I a long time, and when we got married, because I was scared to do some. I was scared to do some things when he was there, and because you're new, and maybe they're not like that today.
Right.
But I was like, self-conscious. So you have to learn one another's what they like and dislike, and what they like to eat and what they don't, and what they like to do and what they don't. It goes both ways.
Of course.
But I just think that you need to get to know one another. So I think if you rush into something and you don't know each other and you find out that there's some things you don't really agree with, don't like, it's too late if you're married. And I think it'd be nice if they would be a Christian, come and trust the Lord. I know everybody listening to the podcast may not be a Christian, but they could learn how to be one. They could learn how the salvation of Jesus. But I think trusting in Jesus for your relationship has brought us very much closer. And, don't you think so, Pastor?
Oh, absolutely so. No doubt about it. I ask young people questions, and we should talk about this. She's right. Now, I say that because Brenda and I met in late February, early March, somewhere along in there. We were married August the 10th of next year.
Of
That's the same year.
Yes.
So we knew each other like 6-7 months before we got married. That's not normally what I would recommend, but there are kind of questions. I write them down for young people. Where are you going to spend holidays? How many kids you want? Are we both going to work for how long? Who's going to take care of the kids? There are all these questions that people assume, well, I know the answer. No, you don't. This is why you got to get off the phone, look into each other's eyes, because when you look at each other's eyes, you'll tell when they're not telling you something. And talk about these things. Get them out of the way before you get married, and you don't have to fight over them after you're married.
Well, another thing, I need to put him first.
Exactly.
No, it doesn't make any difference what I want a lot of the times. I mean, I've learned that I enjoy doing this kind of stuff he wants to do, and he puts me first, and that way we can compromise, and both of us are taken
Which
care
is
of.
why I go to the store and go shopping. I don't like to shop.
There's one thing, Miss Brenda, that you tell me a lot is let the little things go, or don't sweat the small things.
Yes.
When you guys were first married, a lot of times we like to use he left his socks on the floor, or he left his shoes, somewhere he shouldn't. How do young couples not sweat the small stuff? How do we avoid letting that build and build and build and go, well, you left your socks on the floor a week ago Sunday, and
Yeah.
how do you get past that and get Dawn to realize, hey, pick up your socks?
Well, a lot of times I just pick him up because it's a lot easier for me to do than to holler. But he does do that. But after 4 to 6 years, he does pick up his own clothes. He knows. But especially when you have kids too, you want to be an example for him, and he learned that if we do it, maybe they will do it. And I don't know. I don't sweat.
You bite through your tongue a lot.
Yeah, whatever.
Well, when Jerry has his socks out, I say, I'm going to leave the room and see if they'll just jump into the hamper.
That's good.
That's what I
Sometimes they do.
That's what I do.
Well, I want to thank all of you so much for joining us today. It's been really, really a pleasure getting to take a peek behind the veil of what it takes to make a lasting relationship for 50 plus and 40 plus years. Thank you guys so much. Pastor Don, as always, do you have any final thoughts and before you close us in prayer?
Yeah, just a short one. Look, life is a gift. And when God said it is not good for the man to be alone, and made a helpmeet for Adam. I realize there are some people, and there's nothing wrong, who, for whatever reason, God's plan for their life is that they stay single. But that's an exceptional circumstance. There's nothing better, if you do it right, than finding that person that you want more than anything else to spend the rest of your life with. You know, I can't read that, right?
I know.
Okay. That's important. And it's wonderful. And treasure it. Just treasure it. Because, we don't know what's going to happen in the next week or two. You just don't know. But other than that, have some good friends. Hang out with them. Joke with them. Laugh. Life's a gift. Treat it like it is. That's the main thing. Ready? This has been fun. We'll have to have you guys back. Father, thank you so much. We are indebted to you because only you could think of something as wonderful as marriage. And we're so grateful that you did. And Lord, we pray for that person out there who might be struggling, and at the heart of it is they just don't have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. They don't know you as their Savior. And I pray that's the first thing they'll do is they'll seek out someone who can help them. Whether it's emailing us so we can help them or finding a Christian friend who can help them. I pray for somebody who maybe hasn't taken their commitment as a Christian seriously, that they'll get in the Bible and want to know, what does the Bible actually have to say about these matters? And I pray for them, and I pray for couples that are struggling. And maybe some couple out there who's just enjoying life but down the road there's coming a hardship. And I pray that they'll prepare for it by putting you at the very center of their relationship. And I pray that this simple little podcast will be a blessing to somebody and a help. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right. What are we doing? How do we close? I don't remember now. As always, folks, it's been really, this is the problem. This is the other thing in a marriage you got to get used to. She has to help me remember things now. And hopefully I help her remember things too. Thank you so very much for watching today. Again, hit that like button. Hit the share button. Share it with folks. If you need to correspond with somebody, please, PastorDonVictoryIndy.org. By all means, do that, and we will be glad to help you in any way we possibly can. Jason's fond of saying, if you don't own a Bible, we'll help you get one. If we have to bring you one personally, other than if you're living in a foreign country, then we'll mail it to you. But we want you to have a Bible. If you're looking for a church home, we'd love to have you come see us at Victory Baptist. And you'll just find ordinary people on a journey with the Lord. So again, thank you for watching, and hope you'll be back with us next time. God bless you.